All right, folks, I hope you've had a chance to grab some food. We're probably going to get started here in a few seconds, so grab a seat and we'll get started. So, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. I know it's cold and dreary outside, as always, but we're here on the first Wednesdays of every month, and hope to see everybody again. My name is Thomas Randolph. I am one of the co-organizers with Gabe and Nick and Zach. We are happy to see you all here, and we have a few details to go over, just some small stuff. If you haven't visited them already, the bathrooms are behind the kitchen on both sides. There's food and drink, there's beers in the back. We do have a code of conduct on our meetup page, so please read that if you haven't already. If you would like to present, we have propose a presentation on our website, JAMStackDenver.org. Please head there and submit your ideas. We're interested in anyone giving talks, so if you have any ideas or anything you're interested in talking about, please hit us up. I think maybe in February we're going to hear from someone who is security focused on security in robotics, so not web security, but like interacting with robots and humans and those kinds of things. That's really interesting, so we might hear from her. So anything you're interested in, please let us know. We'd love to have speakers. Our sponsors for this event are Frontier Airlines, who bought the food, and there are some 2 liters in the fridge, I believe. Are those ours up there?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay. I wasn't sure if they were ours or not. Yeah, so the 2 liters in the fridge are also ours. Of course, the beer and the venue are provided by Code Talent. So if you're looking for a job, hit up Code Talent. They may be able to place you somewhere. So let's see, anything else? Did I miss anything? I don't think so. I think that's it.
Tell us what the JAMStack is.
Oh, tell you what the JAMStack is. That's right. So the JAMStack is it's kind of an ephemeral term. It's kind of hard to define because it's really open-ended, which I love about it. The JAM of JAMStack stands for JavaScript APIs and Markup. So basically, this encapsulates anything that you can do with websites. Ideally, you'd be serving static assets from something like Netlify, where they've got a global CDN, so super fast, and then those assets are pulling down data from maybe an API or something. So it keeps things really fast by pre-compiling as much as possible and serving those to your users. So JAMStack is basically just this kind of this global term that wraps up things like serverless and APIs and those sorts of things. So if you're not already familiar with JAMStack, I highly encourage you to check it, read more about it. I think JAMStack.org is their main site. We're on the community page there. So read up about it. It's a really good time. So okay. Zach is one of our co-organizers, and he's also our speaker today. Zach is a software engineer at Frontier Airlines, who you may remember them from sponsoring food. He's been doing web development for a while, and he originally had a big interest in game development, but kind of has transitioned to web development and user experience, whether that's through accessibility or good user interactions or whatever. He's been working on honing his skills in this industry with a kind of a passion for good design and good stuff, which is why I think he's interested in Tina and the new tech coming out. So I will leave it to Zach to tell us about TinaCMS.
Thanks, Thomas. So yeah, as he said, if you don't know me, I'm Zach Brooks, and today I want to discuss a new open source tool that I hope kind of starts a new trend and a new way we kind of look at static sites and build with CMSs. So my goal for this presentation is to only include GIFs of llamas. That's one thing, and to stick with the theme of Tina, and hopefully you kind of see how we're taking this idea, or Tina's taking this idea of a CMS and kind of evolving it. But first, some quick facts about me. So I'm a big fan of music, metal specifically, and of course puns. But some of my favorite bands up there include Peripheries, Silent Planet, Architects, Between the Buried and Me. But you don't need to be scared of metal music. It's just angry music for happy people. I also have a cat. Her name's Anya. She can be pretty photogenic sometimes. And then also a complete dork. That's not the most dorky picture I have of her, but that was the easiest one I could find. We might want to turn the lights down. It's kind of hard to see some of that. And of course, anytime I could show a picture of my cat, I'm absolutely going to. I love my cat. And I also love open source. So some of the cool things that I love about open source is, one, it's free. That's always a plus. But it's really cool to see the community kind of come together and create these really cool tools and a space where they're kind of needed. So things like Open Broadcaster software, which is one of my favorite tools that allows us to run the stream for almost free, hardware side. GridSum, which I've come to talk before, which is a cool new way to essentially the Gatsby for Vue. Vue, of course, as well. I work on a daily basis with it. I love working with it myself. And Darktable, which is an open source tool to actually edit photos. Since I've been getting into photography, I found this cool tool that's free from Adobe's kind of subscription plan that allows you to get all the same benefits out of some of their tools. And of course, what I want to discuss tonight, TinaCMS, which is also open source. So, I want to kind of start off with the aim of Tina, and then kind of go into the high-level concepts of like what it actually does, kind of how it's working, and then we'll dive into some code to see how that's actually working and a couple of the cool features you can do with it. Still not sure why they call it Tina. The only thing I can think is Tina the llama from Napoleon Dynamite. It's the only thing I've guessed at this point. But it was announced and launched at JAMStack Conf 2019. There's a video of Scott Gallant, the CEO of Forestry.io, who they're the company that's launched this. And they're also a headless CMS platform, so you can, if you want to kind of hear his brief little pitch about it as well, you can do that. They have a video of him speaking about it on TinaCMS.org. And what the aim to do with Tina is to create a way for content editors to work with hot reloading on a site, much like we do with, say, like a Gatsby site, for instance. It's a way of adding in live editing to a site's content locally in a dev environment, or with they have a Teams solution as well, so multiple people can edit content simultaneously. They aim to be this middle ground between a CMS platform and site builders like Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, things like that, which kind of have those, those live editing features where you can drag and drop stuff, but also handle content. At the same time, it allows developers to have control over what the site's actually doing, and even add more dynamic features to it as well. So, something I kind of saw interesting before I jumped into this quote was, I saw a Twitter thread recently talking about how JAMStack, or asking if JAMStack had been utilized properly with any software as a service companies, if anybody had ever been able to launch a full enterprise application with JAMStack yet. There was a lot of interesting discourse, and I saw one hot take, and I put hot take in quotes of, JAMStack's only useful for blogs and portfolio sites, which kind of took me aback for a second. I'm like, what? I think JAMStack's it's still a pretty new kind of idea, even though the term was coined about a year ago by Nelfar, or 2 years ago, I think. Can't remember when the first JAMStack conf was. But I just don't think that's true. I think things like Tina, which I'll kind of go into more here, can start to change that perspective. JAMStack may not fit every use case, and Tina may not fit every use case, but I think Tina could be a great new toolkit that could have some legs to start to kind of change that perspective of how we work with CMS. And this quote from Scott Gallant is on TinaCMS.org site. He says that, quote, "The CMS editing experience hasn't changed much in the last decade. Essentially, every CMS is a customizable collection of web forms. On the other hand, the editing experiences of DIY site tools like Squarespace, Medium, Webflow, and Cargo have become much more sophisticated. Tina is our way of laying the foundation of what will be the future of content editing. Our goal with Tina is to launch a really gauge interest and watch the community grow. If it meets our expectations, we'll likely build into the roadmap of Forestry.io, and someday you may have the option to edit your forestry site with Tina." So I think that's a pretty cool way to look at it, and they're kind of, it seems like they're really focusing on user experience as one of their key goals with Tina, to create not only a good content editing experience, but also a good development experience as well. Which is why I think the open source approach really works for this, kind of, figuring out what pieces they may be missing initially, and allowing the community to kind of add on with it with extensions and plugins. So, and it seems like they're also trying to, get the community to think about the JAMStack more of okay, here's a cool foundation. What can we do with this to either make our sites better or even build out new approaches with the JAMStack. So what exactly is Tina? As I already mentioned, it's an open source toolkit to add live editing and hot reloading currently only to React-based sites like Gatsby and Next. Those are the ones they're focusing on right now. They have plans to add Vue and Gridsome and Nuxt later down the road. But it's built on the JAMStack and backed by Git. And I want to emphasize this a lot. It's more than just a CMS. It's a plugin and toolkit to add modern JavaScript, or a toolkit to add to modern JavaScript-based sites. So kind of a high-level overview of how it actually works is with real-time feedback. So static sites currently, they take structured content, such as markdown files, JSON files, whatever your content's written in, and process them into HTML files. And as you can see by the diagram, Tina's sitting in the middle of this process, exposing the structured content as form fields in the browser's plugin while still processing that content. So still going through that process of generating our HTML, but also adding this extra layer so you can actually do stuff with it. So still we're seeing is that concept of a CMS, but with the live feedback approach being the key difference. So changes are saved to the original source file, and then saved automatically when pushed to Git. And if you don't have the Tina Teams, the cloud-based solution, it's only saving. It only pushes to your local branch currently. You would still have to push out to your remote repository for like CI/CD to kick in, which I'm going to show how that kind of works later. So I want to jump into the core concepts that they kind of lay out for how this plugin works and kind of some of the terms they use for Tina. So the first thing, and probably the most important one, is the sidebar. So the sidebar is this little blue icon down there, the little edit. And it currently displays the whatever markdown form you have, or whatever piece of content you have loaded on your site. So you can navigate through the site. As you start going through a page, you say, oh, I need to edit that real quick. So you could just pull that up. If it's a content file, or provided it's a content file, and go ahead and do some live editing on it. Sidebar, you can kind of there's two options you can do with it. You can either just overlay or you can displace it. And of course, you can hide this with just a production environment variable. And what's nice of the TinaCMS blog starter or Gatsby starter, sorry, that they provide is they already do this for you. Otherwise, if you're adding it to your own site, you just have to throw this into their plugin. So next up is forms. So the form is kind of the other central piece to the UI. So then there's two different types of forms. There's a local form, which is on the left here, and a global form. Local forms are pretty self-explanatory. They're whatever the piece of content you're editing, so it'll show all the content fields that you have available, while global forms are what they sound like, they're global forms. So things like your site's theme, some metadata, or any other site-wide configurations. And that's located up in that little hammer icon, if you can see on the left, that will pull up that. You can also create custom forms that utilize React hooks, but I'm not going to be going into those. Mainly because Tina doesn't recommend using those at this current time. It's more of an advanced feature that most basic forms should probably solve your use case, but if you really need to, you could, in theory, build your own custom form. But yeah. And then we got fields, so forms are made of many fields. This is, again, most of this is pretty self-explanatory. Like once you start to look at it, it's like, yeah, a form is of course gonna have many fields. And they give you a lot of predefined fields that you would typically see in a CMS. So things like a text box, text area, image, markdown, things like that, content blocks. You can also create custom fields, which I think is really cool. And you can do that by using React, like in this case with React higher order components, which could have their own set of functionality that you want, and even some validation on top of that to verify that whatever content's being edited is passing your business rules if you have them. And then we got the last two are backends and plugins. Backends, again, it sounds exactly what it is. It's a backend of where it's a backend for your CMS, which specifies where the content is stored, as well as the latest version of where your content's sourced from. So currently only Git backends are supported out of the box. I don't know if you have like a bit bucket or something, you could create your own way to tie this in, but you'd have to create your own express router to create your own headless version to update your content, which again, Tina doesn't recommend that right now since it's not officially supported yet, but you can do it. And then plugins, this is really the big community driving feature, which is also kind of a work in progress. This is where users are going to be able to extend the functionality of the CMS. There's even a couple plugins already that Tina needs to properly work that exist for Gatsby. So let's jump into the demo real quick. All right, let's pull up this guy. Yeah, this looks good. All right, so where I want to start is, let's see if I can see that. Do I need to zoom that in?
That's pretty good.
All right. So the place I want to start here is the Gatsby plugin TinaCMS. This is really if you were to go and add this to your existing Gatsby site, this is where you would start. So we get this Gatsby plugin TinaCMS, and this is the main driver of the whole thing. And there's 3 different. Technically, you only need 2 if you're only using Markdown files, but they include 3 right out of the box in this project. So you got Gatsby TinaCMS Git, which this is how it's going to tie into your Markdown files, so it can actually edit them on the fly and make changes to the files as you're editing them on your site. You got Gatsby TinaCMS Remark, which is also utilizing the Transformer Remark plugin to actually allow forms to be editable, which they give you 2 different versions, which I'm going to show. You have your standard Remark version, and then they have this thing called a live Remark version, which allows for inline editing. And then the Gatsby TinaCMS JSON is how you would utilize JSON files, if that's how you're storing your content as well. And like I mentioned, they give you a bunch of options as well for this out of the box for this. So sidebar, so like I mentioned earlier, that's your little sidebar. And this is how they already are hiding it for production. Excuse me. Oh, I also forgot to mention, with TinaCMS Git, that's kind of like your Git settings. So if you wanted to change the default commit messages, or like which user is actually doing it, so you can keep track of, oh, here's all these content changes, you can know, oh, this was a Tina commit, not a developer going in for it. So other than that, this is a pretty standard Gatsby site. Transform remarkers, that's kind of the core ones that both the Tina remarker uses and the JSON version. So kind of go up into here just to kind of show how this works. So we got our content file up there in our assets. Come down to our source. So I'm going to start out with the layout file. So this is kind of where Tina starts to incorporate itself. Excuse me. So we got this with plugin component coming in from React TinaCMS. So that's going to be the core plugin to work with React. And then this create remark button is to allow you to add a new post with add a new piece of content within a form as well. And they even have the little Slugify thing there going for you. So if you have a collection of items, it will automatically Slugify it for you. If we come down here then, so we got our create post plugin. Just going to define a couple things. So this is where, and I'm going to share this again, but this is where they're defining what fields are available in this particular form. And by default, it's going to, when you click a new post, it'll display, okay, this is what your default values are. I'm going to create a new post with a field name of title. It's a type of text component, or you could even use a custom component for that. And then our field label is going to be simply title. So we kind of start to move down a little bit more into the site. We got our blog post. So this is it's a blog template. So let's actually move into the actual site itself, just to kind of show this. So we're got our site running. So I'm gonna take this. This is the post that was created earlier. I'll pull up my sidebar. So We got our author bio, which this is kind of a default. If we go back into here real quick, you got your bio.js component here. So this is kind of like pulling different fields from a GraphQL query and populating a bunch of fields for every type of post. So you can kind of see that like this raw JSON. So in this case, this is actually using a JSON file to edit this. But if we go into here, back out of that and go into the actual post, so we got all of this going here. So I'm gonna let's go into here and let's go under a body, and let's just start adding some text to this. So I'm gonna start typing it, and you can already tell it's already live editing for this for me. This is really freaking cool. So we got some live editing there, but right now it's still just a pending change. So if we go into here, back into our code base, you can see that the markdown file was automatically edited for us. And on our branch, we got a pending change. So in order to commit that, all you have to do is hit save. And now that just made a Git push. You can see that in your Git history of, hey, there was a Tina commit of some sorts. There's the file, all the changes and everything. So yeah, it's really the core of how this is going. But let's say we want to add a new file. So let's just go ahead and add a new post. Let's call it JAMStack, all caps, Denver. Just do the date. Yep, 2109, yes. That's exactly what date it is.
It's still around.
We made it 100 years, past 100 years. All right, so that created a new file for us. This is one thing I've kind of found is you actually, once you have that new file, you actually have to go back in like where it would be in the site directory. And since this is a new blog post type of form, it went back into my main like index for it. But right now we have no content, so let's go ahead and get this. This is talking about TinaCMS. Sweet. Go ahead and save that.
You went to the author bio, right?
No, that's
No,
that's
that
the
was
SEO. That's like a hidden field. You want to edit.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Forgot about that. There we go. Description of TinaCMS. Yeah, I should actually go back into the code here. I can show you what Thomas was talking about there. So we go back into our blog post. Start to down here. So yeah, so here's all of our fields that we're getting for, like I mentioned. So we got a blog post form. That's going to be our type. So we got our title, date, description. So this text area again is going to be like an SEO kind of thing for the body, and then our markdown body. So let's say we want to add a custom field. That's one cool feature about Tina here. I've already pre-added this just random email field. I should get validation working on it, but I just didn't have enough time to get it properly working. So there's a field error there that doesn't actually do anything. But if we can start to pull some of this code in here. So I'm going to add this comment into to make it available in the form. We'll start off there. Let's get some HTML in there so we can actually see it generated on the page. And all this data is coming from a GraphQL query, which I'll go down here in a second to show that, since we need to update the query a little bit. So, like how Gatsby gets our data, which I'm still pretty new to Gatsby, and Gridsom as a whole. So I know we're getting, this markdown remark is what Tina's compiling all these things, all of our data as. The Tina remark is a bunch of properties you get for free with that. The front matter is going to be the core of where our data is coming from. So since I added that new email field and I decided to place it under the data object frontmatter.author, that's where I'm going to query that from. And now I'm importing that email field. I can see that and utilize that in this blog post. So I'm going to So I'll go ahead and save that. Let the heart reloading kick in. Oh no. Oh. Comments. Yay, live demos. Did I miss something? What was it yelling about? Not really property, what was it? Oh, you know what? I think it's because we don't actually have anything in our email field. Because we just added the form, so we don't actually have any data there yet. So I'm just going to do a quick null check here. I did this earlier. I pre-generated the email field. So I'm just going to do a quick ternary operator just so that doesn't. Oh, good point. Oh, yep. All right. Nice. Let's try that. No. No. Hang on. We're gonna go back to. Oh no. Move it in. I'm going to go off script. Let's make sure I got everything. Is it this? Is this not closed out properly? Might not be. Should be.
Does capitalization matter at all? Because in all these it's all lowercase front matter, and you've got raw front matter. I'm not sure.
No, it shouldn't matter in this case. I was pretty sure. Let me double check that. Oh no, you're right. Good call. Except should be called. Actually, no. From what I remember, it doesn't matter particularly. Front matter just kind of exists. So check that. See if that works. There we go. Okay. All right, we're back. Back in business. All right, let's go back to a page that actually has some front matter. This is what I did test it on earlier. So if we go back into here, you can see this new email field. It's unstyled because I didn't apply any CSS to it, just a standard input field. But now it's a new field available in our data set. So again, you can start seeing this edited at, let's say it's a Yahoo.
Zach, can you shrink your browser window a little bit? You can actually cut off the bottom.
Oh, whoops.
Just pull the bottom up from your.
Yeah.
The thing's on the left down here or something.
Yeah, the resolution on this is funky there. Can I scroll any further? No. Sorry. I can't remember the shortcut to shrink or increase.
Oh, I don't either.
By a minus?
That's just oh.
Oh.
It's still going to take the whole screen, even though it's zoomed out.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
You just drag your window up.
All right, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna move it. We're gonna move the field up top.
Nice.
Gonna change the order of it.
Oh,
Oops. Oh, dang it, copy paste there. No. There. Yeah, we got it. All right. Make sure that we break it. There we go. There you are.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just a basic high React component, so nothing special about it. But I think your swipe is reversed for me. But again, it's another piece of content we got in there. So let's go ahead and save that. Now let's show off some of this the inline editing, which is a really cool feature that they have. So what we need to do is we've got this live remark form instead of a remark form. So I'm going to go ahead and uncomment that out. You need a WYSIWYG that allows you to edit the content in line, and then also this form builder that Tina has, which are all these components. So then if we come down into our dangerously set HTML, which is where all of our content lives from the file. Go ahead and comment that guy out. So now what we're doing is we're wrapping that form builder, and it's utilizing this WYSIWYG component to do something to allow us to inline edit. And then all the rest of the content is the same with the section, and then we're adding this button that's going to set a property to actually like trigger the editing feature. And then the last thing we need to do is down in our remark form, we need to change this. Instead of exporting a remark form, we want a live remark form. So if we come back into our file, say our little edit button, let's go ahead and hit edit. So now, doing some inline editing. Yes, it is very, very cool. So the one downside to this is you still have to open the sidebar right now to still commit the changes. So it makes at least the live editing experience like a little bit better, like in terms of like, oh, I want to see like what does this content actually look like when I edit it? Is it going to mess up like the format? Especially if you have like a lot of content here that's kind of like extending down the page. It just makes it a little easier for say like someone less technical to go in and edit things. But
I'm assuming that edit button is also tied to the production trigger.
yes, you would also tie that into the production trigger. And they also when you triggered the remark form, the is editing and set is editing props become available for you for free, so you don't have to do anything with that. I was having some trouble trying to get the preview to get set properly. I wasn't sure why it wasn't like flipping back and forth, and I mean it's possible maybe the WYSIWYG was overlapping onto it and I didn't realize it. But yeah, that's more or less how Tina is incorporating with Gatsby to do some like really cool live editing. It just makes the CMS like experience better. Like it's cool that it will go in and edit your files for you. You can see how the changes are going to look up front. So dive back into change where's your display go? No. You need to extend again. This is what happens when I work on someone else's laptop. Alright, I'm going to change back to you. There we go. And you. Alright, there we go. So, is this the future of content management? I personally think that static site generators and the JAMStack principles are starting to pick up some speed, and I feel like they're going to kind of take hold a little bit more and grow and become more sophisticated with React and all these extra frameworks coming out like GridSum and things like that. And I really think if Tina becomes a more robust toolkit, it could definitely be utilized for larger use cases rather than that typical blog or portfolio starter you always see. I mean, granted, I use that for the demo, but that's something to at least understand how it's all working from a high level. I also think with like if it's plugins start to become more and more incorporated, I think it could really start to take off. I mean, it also gives us this really cool, good middle ground between developers being able to say, here's all your fields that you can edit. Yeah, here's a pleasant editing experience. You don't have to, go in and just start typing in text fields and markdown fields all day. You can actually see what your content's going to look like without requiring CI/CD to kick in and deploy to a test environment. You can see what it looks like up front for your as a content editor. And even as a developer, it just makes the content editing experience more pleasant. It's nice that I can just swap back and forth, and I know all my files are being edited for me. I don't have to go and edit the markdown files later manually. But with that said, it's still very much in the the early ground stages. They just launched it back in October, so still has a lot to grow. But I really think it's a cool foundation, and I'm curious to see what the community is going to do with it down the road. What's interesting is I even saw, I can't remember if it was specifically related to Tina, but it was at least with Gatsby of an e-commerce site. So I really think that's kind of where I could see this start to pick up and start to be utilized if it becomes a little bit more robust as a tool. And yeah, so make sure I check my note. But yeah, with Tina, I definitely feel like it's going to help JAMStack grow and become more robust and show not only developers, but also just show users of like, here's a robust way to utilize JAMStack for our use case. So if you want to contribute to Tina, they have a link up there. It'll give you the guidelines for creating plugins, extensions, and yeah, tell Tina to eat some of your plugins. I really want to create like a plugin that's just called Eat the Food. And it does something simple like just displays Eat the Food somewhere on your site. But yeah, so I mostly use the TinaCMS.org docs. They're still getting, they're pretty basic in terms of like, here's how you get up and running. So it's a lot of like kind of like digging into the code yourself and figuring out how it works. I'm on Twitter at Zcanon with a 0. I post a lot of just dumb memes, GIFs, and tech humor. Trying to get a bit more active on there in conversations. I'm also on Denver Devs at Zach Brooks if you want to talk to me there. And very personal side, which is still sadly a work in progress, but you can check it out at zacharybrooks.io. And yeah, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Zach, you mentioned the potential for like e-commerce and those sorts of things. Are those things that you think the forestry or the TinaCMS team is going to like bake in as like a backend, or do you think they're going to rely on the community for like plugins for say hooking into your Etsy store or something?
Yeah, I feel like they're probably going to start out with the community driving a lot of that, especially with plugins. It definitely seems like it seems like they're taking a hands-off approach with it. Of like, hey, here's this cool toolkit. Go do something with it. They have, like I said, they had a roadmap of gotta get out of presenter mode. Where'd it go? There you go. Here's my link. Copy the link. Kind of show you like their roadmaps. Oh, hang on. Let me change. I know. Let's go into here, kind of show you what their roadmap's pretty. They have pretty modest goals right now, like 100 live. 100 live sites sounds pretty generous, but at the same time, that could be any. I don't know what they're classifying as live sites. Is that like within their platform? Is that like full production sites? Is that just any site? Yeah, so like with very happy editors, like I said, they're very focused on the user experience, and we want to make this good for your user base that's probably going to be using this tool more at least more directly than the developer necessarily. But yeah, I could easily see them like if they realize that this this starts to take off, like I could see them start doing like official or even like taking community plugins and making it like an official. Hey, if you're using forestry, you can build a whole site with Tina with this plugin pre-installed and ready to go for you. So. Yeah, it's kind of hard to gauge of what their overall like long-term solution is. It definitely seems like they're kind of like in the, all right, let's go watch our kid play for a little bit and see what happens. Make sure he doesn't grab a knife or something.
I know it's a new tool. It's pretty amazing. Are there any great plugins that the community has put together in the few months that it's been out?
That's a good question. I haven't had a chance to look at the plugins. Based on their docs, it seems like that's still kind of in the early stages. I imagine someone might have created a local one, perhaps. We could probably see if we can find anything real quick. Plugins. I know it utilizes a lot of the Gatsby ones, so that's a concept.
So are they going to have like a plugin manager or something like that? Like where you can actually search for plugins or something?
That I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would love to know. I think that would be a really good addition. The extended functionality. Yes, they are using Gatsby plugins already, but it seems right now it's very like hands-on. Like, hey, create a plugin, go install it manually for your specific site. So, it's definitely like I think if I looked at some of the like some like pull requests, it's like in release candidate 0.10. It's like the latest one, so it's pretty new in terms of like where they are in development. So
You mean the plugins feature specifically? Not
Or the overall Tina.
Tina is in
Yeah.
RC.10.
Yeah. From what I saw earlier today when I was kind of looking through some of it. So, but it's pretty cool. Like it's a pretty solid foundation. Like, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Like, let's go live edit some content. Like, so it's kind of like, where do we go with this now? So I think that's kind of why they're leaning on the community to help them with that. Like, here we had this cool idea. We're not sure what the limitations are. We need some help figuring that out.
How did you find this?
Oh man, that's a great question. I pretty sure I saw it through Twitter. Just following a lot of just fellow developers. I saw it more and more around JAMStack. Like I've known about forestry.io for a little bit. So I saw them kind of like tweeting out about, hey, we got this cool new thing coming. Keep an eye out for it. So I saw that come up. I'm like, and just started digging into it. Like, what is it actually? I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like some live editing stuff. Like, I mean, it's pretty basic again, like I said right now. But the fact that they're like, hey, here's some goals we want. We want to include it with Vue eventually. We're just starting with React. Let's start small and go from there. Yeah, just keeping my eye out with just different news and things that people are kind of pointing out.
Is it currently only able to do text editing and not like inlining images and things of that nature?
No, there is an image option for forms. So if you had an image in there, I don't have an example of that, but an image is an option for one of your fields. So you could, I imagine you could just hot swap those. And if you created like a video plugin, I know that one would probably be really useful. Like even just pulling like a YouTube URL or even just uploading a video that plays from an HTML5 player or something. I imagine that's probably going to be a pretty quick plugin that somebody's going to build, since I imagine that's really useful for a lot of people.
If you were new to the JAMStack and you wanted to contribute to TinaCMS, where would you begin looking? What would you start working on?
New to the JAMStack. I mean, definitely the contributing docs would be a good start. Probably starting with Gatsby would be also a good, or Gatsby or Next, whichever one you would prefer. That way you always understand like the concepts of editing, at least with how Gatsby and Next are kind of pulling in content. I think that's a good place to start. And then once you have a good understanding of those concepts, then you can incorporate Tina and start making things a little easier and starting to grow from that. Because I think like understanding the overall frameworks and whatever language you're developing in is going to be the core to it. And then from there it's creating plugins or even just helping on the open source project itself directly. Or contributing docs and creating like starters or different examples just for people to get their feet wet, since when you pull up TinaCMS, most of it is a lot of just the official docs right now. So you definitely need some more some community growth to get some more examples out there for everyone.
There's also a good first issue link right there.
Yeah, there you go. Go help out with some issues and report bugs. Like, yeah.
Anything else? Any other questions for Zach? Thank you so much, Zach. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out. We're going to be here for a while. We've got the space till 8, so feel free to hang out, have some more pizza, have some more beer. We're going to be talking. If I feel like it, maybe I might go over to a bar across the street later, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, thank you for coming out. Follow us on Twitter, JAMStack Denver. We're on Denver Devs, the Slack channel. If you're not already on Denver Devs, they just passed 9,000, so we're over 9,000 users on Denver Devs. Yeah, so feel free to join up there. There's lots of little sub channels talking about things, and we're on there. Lots of ways to reach out. So thanks again. And we have a notepad of if you're looking for a job or you're hiring or you just want to put your contact information on it. We have a notepad somewhere. Gabe will have it here in a minute. So hit up Gabe if you've got any of that information.
Free stickers.
Yeah. One last thing, we don't have any firm plans for January because the first Wednesday of the month is New Year's Day. So we probably will not be meeting again on that. We might schedule like a meet and code or a happy hour or something, but that's not set in stone. So the next one we have scheduled is February of 2020. So cool.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and,
everybody.
this VOD, if you want to share out the VOD, or people are up, couldn't come or interested, it'll be on our YouTube. Search for JAMStack Denver, you'll find it. And if you can't make it, but you're still interested in content, you want to watch us live, JAMStack Denver on Twitch.
Thanks, everybody.
Can we get some low music playing?